Welcome to the Masters of Automation podcast. In today's episode, we have Param, who's the Chief Product Officer at UiPath. Thank you for taking the time to join my podcast, Param. It's an honor and pleasure to have you here with me and listen to your story today.
Thank you, Al. Thanks for having me.
Param has been shaping the roadmap of platforms and the products for many years now, previously at UiPath and SAP before joining UiPath. As the Chief Product Officer, now he shapes the adoption of the future of work technologies like RPA, process mining, test automation, analytics, AI, and beyond. The work we do and the processes we interact with during our daily jobs now change based on the work that Param and his team and colleagues at UiPath do. He is a true master of automation. Now, let's get started with how did you start your journey? How did your journey begin with process automation?
Yeah, it's a great question. I even before we called it process automation, I started my career as an engineer, mostly writing code in Unix operating system back in the 90s. And as an engineer, my life, an engineer's life even today is highly optimized. We're very efficient at what we do. We find great ways to eliminate waste from our lives. I did a lot of work in greps and awks and corn shell. You wouldn't imagine the kind of things I wasted my time on. But those are things that just made me happy because it kind of made me efficient. And then I became a product manager. I went to business school and decided I want to be a product manager. And I realized that a lot of things we do in a product manager role are highly inefficient compared to my life as a developer. We did a lot of repetitive kind of things. For example, demos. One of my passion, still is to articulate the value of the product that I work on through demos. And I would have to give these demos, sometimes the same demos over and over again. And if you've done demos, you know that once you go to the demo, you've changed the shape of the data. So to go to the same demo again, you have to go and undo the steps that you did in the demo. It's in some ways sort of like repeat a typical pattern of things that you do so that the data is in the exact same shape, so you can kind of tell the same story again to the next set of audience. And I didn't like that part of my job. And I think that's where I sort of started maybe creating some of the first types of what we call process automation. It was, basically I had a data set that I created in Excel, and I used that Excel data set to populate my demo data for the system that I would do my demos in. And I wrote certain scripts that would take that, that demo data set and, sync it with my demo system so I can give the same demo again. And I think I didn't call it process automation back in the early 2000s then. But essentially, that's what it was. I was sort of automating my pattern of things that I had to do in a repeatable way so that I didn't have to redo the same thing over and over again.
So after that point, what led you to UiPath? What attracted you the most in the company?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So my first job as a product manager, I worked on a product for the call centers. It was one of the most successful call center product back in the day. We built software for companies, call center software for them. We deployed it to customers. Customers were very happy. And when I walked the halls of the customer, about a year into their deployment, I noticed that the poor agents who, I don't think we told the state pay enough money to handle the kind of job that they do, they were doing all tab between 6 or 7 different applications to handle customer calls. Now, mind you, this is a call center system that we purpose built for this customer based on their requirements, based on their need cases. And, that was, that stuck with me for a very long time, that image of that agent, trying to jump those screens while the customer on the other hand was, not happy with the service, the product that they had bought, and nothing to do with the agent or their experience, but just they were having a bad day. And I didn't forget that. And when I was at Microsoft in 2017, running a business which is also focused on call centers and Salesforce automation applications, we partnered with UiPath in the pursuit of a account, and that's where I saw for the first time what UiPath could do in that same contact center use case, and this time in the context of a financial services and a loan processing customer, where the agent didn't have to jump through 6 or 7 different loan processing applications to handle the customer calls. They were able to get the robots to do it, and the robots were bringing all the data back to the dynamic screens, which we were responsible for at Microsoft during my time there. And that was a big aha moment for me, that this technology is really going to make an impact in people's life by making them more productive and more efficient at their jobs. And ironically, totally separate, somebody else reached out to me and said UiPath was looking to grow presence in the United States, especially around product and engineering talent. And I took the call and answered it, and here I was a couple months later.
That's an amazing story, and I think especially the contact center ties to the customer experience and employee experience as well, because everyone at some point calls the contact centers to resolve the issue that they have. So tying that to the broader hyper automation, what is the future of work for you? And if you were to apply that to the life of a chief product officer now, who's impacting?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Hyper automation, or the future of work as it's impacted by hyper automation and automation technologies, is exciting, because I think for the first time, like, all of us can focus on the jobs that we're hired for. Like the contact center agent we're talking about, they were hired to make customers happy, to manage their questions and answer their requests, not to jump across systems. And by creating technology to the hyper automation platform, we can get them to focus on that. Robots can jump hoops for them across systems and collect the data, and they can focus on the interaction with the customer and trying to figure out what they can do to make their experience more satisfying. I'd say the same thing can be applied more generically into other roles and other parts of the people's jobs, including my job as a chief product officer. So, for example, as a chief product officer, my job is to build the right products and technologies that helps meet our customers' needs and solve their problems. But my job, in trying to do that, is also to manage people. And like most managers, I also don't enjoy, the process of administering data into people, into HR applications, especially during the annual review cycle processes and stuff. So what I do is I create bots to help me manage that employee lifecycle process data into our HR systems. I still use some bots to make sure my demos are now ready, not just with data, but also can run through, a bot can run through the test case of my data before I'm supposed to go make the demos, make sure all the systems are up and operational. And then I can go and, be more comfortable that I'm not going to hit into a hiccup while I'm running my demo, that all the systems are up. That still happens. I still run into hiccups because things always break during live demos. But applying these little things helps me, and most importantly, I think, free up my mind from having to worry less about, will the system actually break when I'm doing a demo, to focus on, am I really articulating the benefit of what we've created as a company to our customers in the appropriate way, right? I don't have to worry about, am I updating the HR systems, in the right time or not. I can focus more on, am I creating the right environment for, the employees and the product managers at our company to do their best effort to meet our customers' needs. And that's what, the future of work is all about. We all can actually start doing the jobs that we're hired for, as opposed to trying to, work our ways through systems and trying to unblock, systems that get into the way of us doing our jobs.
And that's very well said, especially since the automation in the early days started with a focus on back office. Now, now we can see a chief product officer can leverage automation um, in his daily life. And then I think that where it started and where it came from is really far, that it enabled more citizen developers, more anyone to augment robots within their work to improve what they do and focus on the tasks they love rather than doing the repetitive and boring tasks. So as a CPO, now you decide where the product is headed. So what do you think is expecting us? What is next? Where are we heading now?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And as you mentioned, I think like the I think of like the automation wave in sort of almost three different parts. The first one was all around like back office, as you mentioned, the automate the obvious, the high volume processes that no people didn't need to see, just that need to happen should be automated. And that was all focused in UI automation and back office automation. And I think that was all in like 2015 to 2018 timeframe. That was, the core of what the RPA market was. I think the last, let's say, 3 years from 2018 until maybe now has been more focused on the automation platform as becoming sort of an enabler for companies to be more efficient with their processes, whether they're in the back office or in the front office. Combining the power of AI and machine learning to do things like unstructured data processing from documents, being able to orchestrate end-to-end processes across humans and bots, and being able to manage, the end-to-end journey of what customers are trying to manage. And I think that's really sort of been the core of what we've seen over the next over the last three years. And I think I call that sort of the second wave of the automation. And I think as we get into 2022 and beyond, I think we're really in the third wave of automation. And I believe the third wave of automation is going to be central to how companies think of digital transformation. Right. And so every company around the world is thinking about, around the boardroom is sitting and saying, well, we have to digitize our processes. We have to be more responsive to changing patterns in supply chain. We have to find new ways to meet our customer demands. And we need more flexibility and agility in trying to adapt to what our customers are trying to do. And yet, the investments that companies have done in their enterprise systems till date have been focused on less on agility, but more on standardization. If you look at existing systems, the ERP systems and CRM systems, which I have been part of for a long time in my career, were all built on a standard way of doing things. Here's the most efficient and the best way to process orders. Here's the best way to manage sales opportunities. And companies did that in that era because they wanted to be more effective and efficient in doing things, and they wanted less variance. However, when you get into digital transformation, yes, you do want to be effective and efficient, but you want flexibility and agility is more important. You don't want just one standard way of doing things. You actually want to evolve on new business models that can create differentiation. They can open up new markets or new segments of markets for you, but at the same time, be able to have real-time business monitoring that can make sure that you are not doing things in a non-standard or non-conformant, it's a better word, a non-conformant way, so that salespeople aren't promising things that your manufacturing can't deliver. So I think what automation platforms can deliver in the future is the ability to create a flexible and agile layer on top of existing investments in core platforms so that you can create new processes and new experiences for customers, yet do it in a way that you've got business process monitoring underneath it all that can monitor alerts and exceptions in real time, so that while it gives you the flexibility and agility to your people to to imagine new ways of doing things. It also gives you the real-time monitoring to make sure that for any non-conformant or non-compliant way of doing things can be caught in real time and can be exposed and stopped in real time. And I think that is what the automation platform of over the next 3 years is going to deliver. A flexible, agile way to innovate around the core platforms to help companies digitize their processes and businesses while promising real-time monitoring of processes and improving those processes.
As you said, it's a very exciting future ahead, waiting for everyone, and including ourselves and the next generations who be entering into the workforce as they start their journeys with automation or interact with processes that have real-time transactional processing and capabilities. So that's it. Thank you very much for joining my podcast session today, Param. It's been very informative, very educational, and it's been a pleasure to listen to your story of how you started your RPA and process automation journey and your insights into what is coming ahead. Thank you very much for joining once again.
Thank you, Al. Thank you so much for having me.